Welcome back. We want to wrap up the news review this morning with Senators Mutula Kilonzo Jr. and Kimani Wamatangi from Makueni and Kiambu respectively. One more headline to look at, but before we even get to that, there's a very interesting one, but this one you'll read for yourself. On page 3 of the Standard, it's also highlighted on the front page of the Standard. Kibor now files for divorce from his third wife. Kibor seeks to divorce intolerant third wife. After parting ways with his second wife last year, this 83-year-old farmer now is determined to end a 43-year liaison with Naomi Jepto. Wow. Jackson Kibor. Counties failed to meet revenue targets. That's the headline on page 5 of the Daily Nation. The latest report by the Controller of Budget says counties collected only 4.82 billion shillings between July and September in 2017. Counties are increasingly becoming reliant on the state after failing to meet local revenue targets, thus continuously putting a strain on the Treasury to provide development top-up funds. The latest report says that 47 counties raised only 4.82. Now, this is against a target of about 30 billion. The amount is 8.6% of the annual target of 55.92 billion. Now, they've also listed the top 10 counties in as far as collection is concerned. Nairobi tops the list. Of course, Nairobi is a special county, being the capital. It raises 1.4 billion shillings. It raised during that time, July and September. Narok comes second. It raised 692 million. Mombasa raised 307 million. Nakuru 271. Kiambu 244. It goes on and on and on. Makueni doesn't feature on any of among the top 10 or the bottom 10, but Kiambu does. Taita Taveta raised 15 million between July and September. That's not even a month. That's in 3-4. Wow. But when we were thinking about devolution, these units were supposed not just to be administrative units, but also economically viable units that they could sustain at least some level of their expenditure. But looking at some of this of the revenue collected, it appears that none of these counties is able to raise a substantial amount to cover its own expenditure, so that probably what comes from Treasury, the amount that's shared out among the counties, could go to development. If at all we continue with this trend, surely counties could end up at a point where they're no longer viable. Don't you think, Senator?
No, I don't agree. And this is a debate that is ongoing, and it has two factors. One is called OSR, famously referred to as on-source revenue, and the other one is over-budgeting, over-projecting. And therefore, the on-source revenue, and the third component is that Treasury has also failed in terms of Article 209 of the Constitution, all the way from subclause 1 to 5. They are supposed to synchronize this on-source revenue. Counties are fighting over what something is called cess, and we have a debate that a vehicle, cess is being collected by a vehicle in Mombasa, in Makueni, in Taita, Makueni, Nakuru, all the way. Many of those things. The second one is over budgeting, so that they can create what is called a balanced budget. Counties are over projecting about how much they will collect. The third one is politics. Now, the county of Kiambu collected a lot of revenue, Mombasa, etc., etc. What we did in the revenue sharing formula, we put something called fiscal responsibility to 2%, so that counties could have an incentive of collecting more revenue. So how does that work? Lamu County gets more money this year, last year, 800 million for collecting revenue. Machakos loses 500 million for not collecting revenue. Yes. But in the 2016-17 interlude financial year, so that governors could get elected, they waived all collections.
Yes.
They said, don't pay anything.
The ads were all over the newspapers.
Don't pay anything. Populism, so that then they could get elected.
Okay.
But it caused a huge hole in the projections. But this is something we need to discuss in detail. And the last component is something called revenue leakage. That counties are not collecting and not reporting. Nairobi is famous
of collecting and failing to report.
Collecting and failing to report. And the last one is something called spending at source. That we call it appropriation in aid. That counties are collecting revenue and immediately buying a cup, buying a spoon, buying etc. etc. So you actually can't tell what they are doing because they're supposed to bank the money.
So these reports are not accurate as they should be.
The problem is the financial management. Treasury is supposed to have capacitated counties. Treasury did not capacitate counties to do so. There's something we call KDSP. It's a grant given by World Bank to help counties in terms of this, what we call on-source revenue. The only problem I have with that grant is that they have capacitated the executive in terms of how you collect revenue, how you do financial management reporting, but they have failed to capacitate the Senate and the county assemblies in terms of checking whether these people are doing the right thing.
Senator Omatang?
Yes, Fred, there are two terms that are normally used and I think that have confused or have been confused by heads of counties and that's governors and the leadership. You know, we have a term, locally collected revenue. And then we have a term, locally generated revenue. And that is the fundamental difference.
Yes.
That governors forgot that when they were put at the helm of counties, their work, other than managing on the local revenue aspect, that the key word is locally generated revenue. And because, this is a question that we must ask very loudly. Even this money that has been taken to counties, that's been given to counties from the national exchequer, is it going down to helping the counties be what they're supposed to be? And you just need to take examples from other countries, other jurisdictions. Look at China, for example, and look at their provinces, which is probably the equivalent of our counties. And you find that they have robust counties. You go to a county, for example, a province called Guangzhou, and there they have come up with their own model that this is an industrial county, and so they have put in policies and plans and regulations and law that help that county to grow and have it generate its own revenue, almost to becoming a state itself, with the kind of revenue that they get. And this revenue is not given by the central government of China. It is generated by the province of Guangzhou. If you go to other countries, for example, even in the United States, with over there 3,000 counties, you find that counties have got distinct plans for them to be able to generate their own revenue. And this is the key word that we must underline as we speak to governors. Because as long as they forget this, they will never help the counties or the people of the counties. As long as they keep on having their hands wide open, waiting to receive what will be adjudicated here and disbursed from Parliament and the Senate, that this year you are receiving your disbursement of 9 billion. And so the next thing they go to is sitting down with pen and paper to plan how they are going to spend the 9 billion that came, and ignore totally that they're sitting in counties that have got enormous potential. So
they just waited for the big money
that they can plan, that they can think themselves, and know that what they're receiving is peanuts. They're receiving, they can generate 5 times more of what they're getting.
Looking at this list, the question anyone asks is, so what's the big difference between a county like Narok that is able to collect 692 million shillings against a county like Lamu, 5 million. If we're talking about tourism, both counties do engage in that kind of business. So how is Narok collecting so much and the others are not able to?
Masai Mara is a multi-billion venture. In fact, part of the investigations we did in the Senate revealed that in fact the reports they give are not even accurate. They actually collect more, which comes in foreign currency. In Mombasa, the same. The point, and Senator Omatang is mentioning, is that counties have not tapped into the potential they have. Mombasa has not marketed itself as a tourism destination. You find that Zanzibar, possibly, which is smaller and doesn't have better beach hotels than Mombasa is possibly collecting more. Hotels in Zanzibar are more expensive than the hotels in Mombasa. Why is that? So that question has not been addressed. But yesterday something came up that we must point out. Counties are supposed to collect something called property tax. It has now come to the fore that in fact the valuations of properties in the country is 1960-1970. So I told the cabinet secretary.
Is not covered.
Yeah, I told the cabinet secretary, I'm happy for you to value all the property in Nairobi, and government should start paying property tax to the county government of Nairobi. Increase the revenue. A business proposition. He mentions US. I was pleasantly surprised to realize that in Texas nobody pays income tax. The collection is from lottery and property tax. So people are cautioned.
Yeah, sure.
So therefore, and gambling.
Yeah.
So every county has got its own potential, and therefore that is the potential, and a discussion on this aspect must be done so that we make counties viable. Our own estimation at the Senate is that a county like Nairobi, at some point should be the one that should be giving some money to national government. And in the US, what they do is that you don't receive, like Senator Wamatangi is saying, you don't go with an empty basket all the time.
Yeah, to receive.
They match your collection. You get a certain portion. You make we match. We give you this much.
Yeah.
It's only at national level in the US where they are allowed to have negative deficits. But
and Fred, what Senator Kilonzo says is actually not new to our history. There was a time when the previous provinces used to lend to national government. It is in the history of a place like Kiambu that there was time that we have lent money to national government. Yeah, because money was being generated and was being raised and then used properly. And the key thing that's what I would want to finish with on that issue is that you realize that each county has got its own uniqueness that it can exploit to differently collect its revenue. We have got counties that have got enormous potential in minerals. We've got counties that have got enormous potential as game reserves, as Mutula Kilonzo says, as tourist destinations, agricultural counties. Each of them uniquely. If you have somebody who is thinking very hard, and knowing that he cannot sit and wait to be given, so that he can give to the people. And this is what I would want us to say as a finalize. That as a standard measure, as now we move on as Kenyans, we must put to test the people now we want to be electing as governors. So, are these people capable of thinking outside themselves? Are they able to put away the begging basket and say that I have a county here to run and I'm able to take this county forward?
Business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And that's why they're the CEOs of counties. Yeah.
Senators, thank you so much for helping us look at the headlines this morning. That's Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr.
Are you winding up?
Yes, sir, we are winding up.
Without saying something about women. About women.
Okay. Yes, it's International Women's Day. You need to, okay, fine. I'll allow you 30 seconds to say something.
What are you saying?
Okay, fine. the next segment is also about women. The International Women's Day with Joy Mutengi. My director will allow me. The senators want to comment about women. Okay, Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr.
Happy Women's Day.
Okay.
The majority of population in Kenya are women. We should have started with that topic.
I do apologize for
Happy Women's Day. We don't celebrate you, the women of this country, as much as we should. Today is going to pass as just another ordinary day. We are going to have other headlines about politics. And the women of this country are our sisters, our wives, our mothers. Nobody's going to recognize you. But we recognize you, that you are the driving force of this country.
Wow.
Yeah, sure.
If you are to go to ask for votes from women today, I think you'd get all of them. Senator Wamatangi, you are lucky because he suggested it.
As you know, my history, I've done a lot of work around this issue, and even that's partly how I got my name Wamatangi, by ensuring that even the lowest of the low, in the women folk out there in the villages, I endured and embraced the call to help them. And so I want to wish all the women of this country, happy Women's Day. They've done a great deal in the progress of this country. And strangely enough, I was reading the other day a documentary, and people don't know that in this world there exists big women innovators and who have done major things in this world. I mean, we treasure people like Henry Ford, like Thomas Edison. There are women who have made major discoveries. I was pleasantly surprised to learn that the person who discovered the telegram is a woman.
Wow.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
It is a woman.
Okay.
And so many other discoveries around the world. You know, I mean, so I believe women have done a great deal. We celebrate them.
We do celebrate them. Happy International Women's Day, and that's where we wrap up our news review this morning. Thank you so much, Senator Kimani Wamatangi from Kiambu and Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. from Makueni County, helping us look at the headlines this morning. I'm talking about International Women's Day. A 23-year-old woman in Nairobi has dared to dream and venture into a field largely dominated by males. And ahead of International Women's Day today, Sarafina Mumbi was commended for her effort in empowering other women through graffiti on matatus. Laura Otieno has the details.
5 years ago, Sarafina Mumbi, fresh from high school, decided to roll up her sleeves and pursue her passion for art. At 18, she enrolled as an apprentice under a local graffiti artist in Mathare, and in a territory considered to be male-dominated waters, the waves of the deep sea rocked her boat. Resilient and strong-willed, she refused to budge. 5 years on, her efforts finally bore fruit. UNICEF, in partnership with the Australian Embassy, got 14 secondary school girls from low-cost areas who sat together with Sarah to brainstorm on ideas on women empowerment. And for a day, a list of women the team considered influential was drafted. The faces, alongside messages of hope to women, conspicuously engraved on this 14-seater matatu intended for public transport within Nairobi. Kenya's representative to UNICEF insisting on the need to engage in such programs to enhance gender parity.
This is more an expression of empowerment and an expression that a woman can do the things they hope to do or they want to do.
The paintings take Sarah and her team of 5 about 4 days to complete. Her charges set at an average of 100,000 shillings per matatu, proceeds that enable her sustain herself, enrolling for a graphic design course to enhance her talent.
Naweza afford kujilipia school fees, kulipia skills yangu mdogo, niko na business kadhaa huko nje, pia na nimecreate employment kwa wase. Naweza sema hiyo ni achievement kwangu.
And as the world prepares to celebrate International Women's Day tomorrow, Sarafina's only plea is for women to rise above their limitations and fight for the gender parity they so much long for.
Watoke kwa comfort zone, waache kusema ati hakuna job hawezi do, na wapende pia kuchoka. Kwa sababu hakuna kitu inakuja rahisi.